is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome to the Positive Communication Show with your host, Matthew Cooper, where crisis meets communication. Join Matthew on the journey of skills, techniques, and wisdom on empowering your communication and enriching your relationships. Matthew has been a student and practitioner of self-help skills and crisis communications for over 20 years. He owns Positive Control Systems, a crisis communication and intervention business, and teaches these skills to parents, teenagers, and professionals. Here is your host, Matthew Cooper.
On OMTimes Radio, that's OTR-FM. This is the premium station. So for those of you that are coming for the first time, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Love to have you. Hope you have a wonderful time and you get something out of this. And for those of you that are coming back for more, just can't get enough. I know, it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's good material. Thank you so much for entrusting me once again with your time this evening. So a little bit about me and what I do and what my business is. My business is Positive Control Systems, a crisis intervention and communication business. And with that business, it's been in business about 20 years. I purchased it about 8 years ago. And it is primarily focusing on being able to communicate more effectively and reduce the trauma when the individuals that are being worked with are being worked with, whether it's going to be physically if they're attacking someone else and you have to respond to intervene and stop them from hurting themselves or from hurting someone else, or a simple, hey, I'm having a bad day, can you come talk to me? All of that is included in the trainings that I teach. Now, the crisis communication and crisis intervention, what it's all about is being able to build a strong connection with the other person and learning how to better improve your own communication skills when I'm working with an instructor and I'm teaching them so they can learn how to better communicate with not only their other fellow staff members, but also with their clients. Now, I've worked with the troubled youth industry. That's our main client. We also work with drug and alcohol rehab facilities, both for adults as well as for youth. Also work with some adult programs up in Alaska. High-functioning mental health. We work with a number of different clients across the United States, and this is something that's really needed. I've also recently begun working with, or not working with, but working on transitioning that program, which has been in business, like I said, for 20 years, into something that we can have for parents as well. With the crisis intervention business that I have two main programs I teach. One uses pain compliance, the other one does not. The one that does not use pain compliance is a gentler program. It's mostly focused on smaller teenagers or youth, because sometimes we have some before they are teenagers in our facilities. And other times we have, say, a female population. They're not violent. They're not trying to hurt anyone else. They may work on self-harm or by damaging themselves. And so being able to help them and to control them if they're doing that, protecting them and keeping them safe is our first and our greatest priority. We also work with other facilities that do have more of a violent population. That's when I highly recommend the Positive Control Systems program for crisis intervention, because when we're working with, say, for example, a 6'3" Polynesian young man that may weigh 200, you need to have some way of being able to safely control him without having to pile on like a rugby team. So we want to make sure that we're having those kinds of skills. And that's what I am able to bring to the table and teach these skills to these different clients of mine, these different facilities. What I do prefer as well is to work with parents one-on-one. Also being able to teach workshops and lectures with parents as well. And the reason for this is that parents, it's tough being a parent. I'm a single dad with 5 kids. And in having this situation where I'm a single dad with 5 kids at home, 4 of the 5 which are teenagers, that can be challenging. It can be very challenging. Part of that challenge is being consistent. Another part is being able to be respectful. Another part is making sure that I am being as Mahatma Gandhi put it, being the change that I want to see in the world. I'm making sure that I'm not being a hypocrite. When I was younger, that's one of the biggest challenges I had with my parents is do as I say, not as I do. And learning to avoid that kind of an issue is very big and very strong motivator for me. And also being the custodial parent where my children do live with me all the time, being able to make sure that I am being consistent with the way I'm working with them and communicating with them is super important. This is for any parent, as well as if you are a manager and you work with a company, you work with your employees. Okay, being consistent is huge. Being with parents, it's even more so, because these are people that hopefully you're going to have a strong positive influence on. They will then grow up, raise their children, and also be able to have strong positive influences on them as well. We as parents are the ones that are responsible for that, no one else. It's not the schools, it's not the media, it's not the news agencies, it's not their friends, it's not the internet. It is us as the parents. And if your children do not respect you, if they do not want to listen to you, if they don't really like you, guess what? It's going to be really, really hard to build a strong relationship with them where they're going to tell you, hey, yeah, mom and dad, there were drugs at that party last night. I didn't take any, but I was tempted. Are they going to tell you that? Are they going to say, oh, hey, dad, do you have any condoms? Oh, thanks, dad, I appreciate it. Wait, how old are you? Are they going to ask these questions to you? If they do, then chances are you're doing a lot of things right. If they're not, well, I'm not saying you're not doing all the things right or a lot of things right. I'm simply saying that it could be improved with your relationship with your child. We oftentimes here in the United States have different perspectives on what is appropriate. Judeo-Christian background for many of the people, being able to have, if you will, a Puritan type of a perspective. This is appropriate, this is not. You do this, you do not do this. This is what I said, and you will do it or else. Okay, having that kind of a mindset with our children, that's a challenge. For those of you that have heard the expression baby boomers, remember those? Okay. Individuals born back in the 1940s and 50s, all the way up through into the, I think, even into the 70s. And then from the 80s into, I think, the 2000 area, the 20 years there, that's Generation X. And then from Generation X became the next 10 years, like 2000 to 2010 or something like that. And then you have the Generation Y. And now you have what they call the millennials. And each one of these generations responds a little bit different to the communication that we're working with. I find I have no issues at all speaking to individuals that are from the baby boomer area. Very easy for me to communicate with them. Why? Good old-fashioned respect. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, thank you, please, etc. Works really, really well. Generation X, I also can relate to them quite well. I grew up in that area, and the people tend to be able to connect also pretty well with me. After that, we have Generation Y. Now I've noticed there's a bit of a downturning in the receptivity some of these people have to the concepts and ideas that I have to share and offer. Generation Y is when they're starting into these teenagers that have this, and young 20-something adults that have a very different concept and outlook on life than I did when I grew up. And that makes it a little more challenging for me to find that common ground to connect with them, to communicate with them. And then the millennials, that would be my teenagers, my children, dealing with them. Now, those millennials, this is so different. Being able to try and communicate and connect with them, because, as well as the Generation Y, compared to where I'm at right now, because they have this concept, this idea that, you know what, I'm an important person. You know, no kids left behind. Well, I wasn't one of those kids. I wasn't left behind. So, you know what, I am entitled to this. You need to tell me how I'm doing. You need to give me periodic updates and say, hey, you're doing great. You know, give me a long 1-year achievement award. Yeah, I've been doing this for a full year. It's a little bit different than when I went to work. You don't congratulate somebody for showing up for work for the first 6 months. You don't give them a special award. You say, all right, this is your feedback session with your manager. You're doing great here. You need to work on this. All right. Thank you much. Keep doing great work. Or, you know what? You're having some problems here. We need to talk about this, this, and this. This is where you're not coming up to the industry standard. We want to be able to help you get that way. What can we do? They don't want to hear that. They want to hear a good job. Oh, you're doing so great. And then be able to give them a sucker or a lollipop or something. And then pat them on the back as they go out the door. It's very, very different. They expect the same level of respect, and I won't quite say veneration, but I will say they expect the same level of trust and rapport with, say, for example, an older person that's worked at the factory or the business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They expect to have that same level of people treating them, that same level of respect and that same level of acceptance, even if they started 6 months ago. It's the mindset. It's so very, very different. And when we understand these different generations, and if we're having challenges with them, okay, this can be some of the reasons why it is so difficult for us to communicate with them. Another big issue, I was reading it both in some of the college classes I'm taking right now. I'm finishing up my bachelor's degree. Yes, I went back to school, and even though I'm in my 40s, I know I'm going to be having no problems at all finishing this thing. It's coming up in February. I'll be finishing that degree. And then after that degree, I'm thinking of going on with my master's. Why? Because I can. And because in a couple of years, am I going to be regretting that I didn't just continue and finish it up while I could? Possibly. How about if I do finish it? Is that going to be a beneficial thing for me? Well, heck yeah. Also, a lot of it's online, which is something that I didn't have available when I was younger. And that makes it a lot easier for me to work with these people that are going to school that are at a more quote-unquote school age, where they're, say, in their 20s and 30s. Like, all right, you know what? I can hang out right here, and I can fit in very well with this graduate program, and I think I'll be just fine. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to have that understanding of this is possible. Getting back to the different generations, we have the baby boomers, the millennials, etc. Well, by understanding where they're at, it also helps us to understand where we're at and how to be able to connect with them. Our break is coming up here in just a few moments, so stick around. Don't go away. Be back in just a couple of minutes.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
OTR FM, OMTimes Radio, part of that network. So we were just talking about the different generations. We have the baby boomers. We also thought that if you want to go back that far, traditionalists, the baby boomers. Then we have the Generation X, the Generation Y, then the millennials now. And it is so interesting being able to recognize these different generations and how they're able to communicate with people that are their age. This newest generation, if you watch them, they don't really have a lot of face-to-face communications. They will text, they will chat, they will Instagram, they will tweet. Usually it's Instagram these days, I've noticed, more than tweet. They even had some sort of I noticed my teenage kids had almost like a walkie-talkie where they would make a short statement, they let go or send anything off. Okay, a minute later, other friend sends it back. Like, oh, this is just like walkie-talkies back when I was a kid. Of course, it wasn't on a nice, expensive phone. It was on a little crappy walkie-talkie. And it seems they have these different ways of communicating, and yes, they can hang out and talk and have fun in person, and yet oftentimes, unless they are right there with someone that they are interested in or they have a connection with, they have a hard time chatting with somebody that is not from their age group consistently. I've noticed that is one of the biggest challenges of this generation, and in one of the courses, as I mentioned, since I'm going through and finishing up my bachelor's degree, and with the business management and the work that I'm doing there, talking about the sociology of the issues going on right now and how one of the biggest problems these kids have, because it is the millennials, they are unable to really talk to the person interviewing them for a job interview. It's very tough for them. When they don't have that connection, when they don't have that understanding of the best way to communicate with people, when they instead have this idea of, oh, you know what, maybe you should just tweet me and that'll be better. No, you can't do that, especially to clients. You're not just going to say, oh, hey, tweet me and we'll just talk from that way, all right? No, you're going to have to communicate with them face to face. This same thing goes if you're going to be communicating with, say, another coworker. Now, if you are just hanging out, okay, go ahead. You can Instagram them or be able to text them. But so many miscommunications happen with text. Now, why is that? Why do you think so many communications happen with texting? Well, there's lack of additional information. I mean, you have words, and that, according to some studies, anywhere from 70 up to 93%, according to some studies, of all communication is body language and what they call analogs, the nonverbal portion. It can be things like your voice tones. When you're on the phone, oh man, it's at least 70+% is in your voice tones and how you say the things versus just the words you say. So it's really important to have these additional factors to help us be able to communicate more effectively. And if we don't have them, that makes it very difficult to effectively and appropriately communicate with someone. Really, really important. So when we have these connections, when we have these challenges, these issues in being able to have that strong connection with someone, take into account the person you're speaking with and which generation they're from. How well do you know them? If they're a young person and you're attempting to mentor them, assist them with their work, or even working through a problem or something non-technical, the reason why I mentioned that I'll get to in just a moment, especially if it's about communication, you might be able to have a really great conversation provided you're able to match your understanding of their generation to them. Now, the reason why I was mentioning technical before is because these new generations, they are whiz kids. Okay? They are wizards when it comes to technology for the most part. They are able to intuitively grasp it. They've grown up around it for so long, inundated since they were just very young. They're able to very quickly pick up on technology and be able to utilize that technology for their schooling, for their entertainment, for all kinds of connecting with people around them. That's what the social media is all about, those generations. Understanding that and being able to I won't say catch the wave, but being at least catch on to what's going on and have some sort of an understanding is really important for individuals, especially those of us that are in different generations than these millennials and these Generation Y individuals. The reason why it's important is, at least that I've found, is that the world is not isolated anymore. With the advent and the introduction of the internet, being able to now connect with people across the world in mere moments, holding intelligent conversations in real time, allows us to be able to spread out, connect, and interact with people in a way we have never been able to do previously. It's not quite telepathy, but it's almost like the next best thing. We can reach out and Skype with someone. I have a buddy of mine up in Montana. It is so funny. He does not like to talk on the phone. He would rather Skype with you. Why? Because it's like he's sitting down in front of you talking face to face. That's something he really enjoys, and it's much more comfortable for him. Most likely it's because of reading that facial expressions. Most likely it's that additional communication and connection that he feels by being able to have that visual connection. Now, in past shows, if you've been able to follow what I'm chatting about and talking about many times, communication is huge to me. We probably talked about a lot of communication already. One of the parts that I'd like to talk about and I like to make sure everyone understands is that there are three main ways that we have of learning in NLP, neuro-linguistic modalities, three of which are what we mostly use to communicate. Those are auditory, which is hearing and speaking, visual, which is being able to see something and then wanting to be able to convey that in words to somebody else, and then processing that picture so that the other person is also able to process and be able to recognize, oh, hey, you gave me this picture, now I can understand, I can explain it to you. I see the world as I view it. Okay, I experience it through visions. It's a visual person. And then kinesthetic, I break into two areas, the kinesthetic physical and kinesthetic emotional. People that relate to the world through their bodies. They want to get a grasp it. They want to grab a hold and have someone walk a mile in their shoes. Glue that holds the world together. We got to make sure we stay strong as a team, holding on to each other. All that's touching, holding, feeling. All that is about the kinesthetic aspects of communication. People, each one of us, have different ways of connecting and communicating with each other. When we have an understanding of how that person specifically communicate, oh man, it's like you just opened up a dictionary and all their language, their specific language is open to you. It makes sense. They get you, you get them. It works wonderful. I was having a great conversation with a business friend of mine, and she and I were chatting. She does a lot of networking. She's a great, great lady. She grew up in New Zealand. She came from Taiwan, I believe, and then New Zealand for about 20 years, and then she came over to the States. And what's interesting about her is when I talk about this communication stuff, her eyes just kind of glaze over, and I can tell that she's not paying as much attention. And when we talked about it, she says, yeah, this stuff you're talking about, this is how you do it step by step by step. I don't even listen to you. I can't focus because that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't do that. I just walk up to someone, I listen to them, and I know what I'm supposed to say, and I can say it, and it works great. Cool. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be awesome just to be able to walk up to anyone and intuitively be able to pick up on the best ways to communicate with them and make that connection? That would be awesome. However, not all of us are able to do that. I had to learn how to do it. Now, could I communicate with people before? Yes, I could. When I was just a wee lad, a wee young a wee young lad, just about 9 years old, my father's a chiropractor, and took me into his office when he was working. I think it was more in the summertime. And he would have me talk to these old people. I mean, they must have been like 40 or something. They're old. And I had to talk to them. He left me in the room. Because of that, yes, 40, old, I know. Because of that, when I learned to communicate with people and talk to them, that taught me conversational skills. Where I learned also to talk about anything. People were really nice, and they helped me to be able to be comfortable in learning to speak my mind and being able to to greet them and start to be able to have conversations. It was great. It was awesome. That kind of connection is not always available to everyone. It's actually quite rare. Where my dad understood the need for learning these communication skills, he simply knew, okay, sink or swim, time's on. Throws me in with these older people, like 40, to connect and communicate with them. Because of that, I became fascinated. Why did I have that experience, and why did my dad do it that way? Well, the main reason he didn't know a better way. That was how he was probably trained and how he was given his instruction when he was younger. He was a great, he is a great salesman, loves to sell, loves connecting with people and selling anything he can with him. So as a chiropractor, it was wonderful, him being able to have that as an option. Being able to connect that way, being able to have that communication, great. It was something that he had built up and it was innate. And my mom mentioned that I had also kissed the Blarney Stone the way my father had as well. So they could sell ice cream makers to Eskimos. They could sell freezers to Eskimos. You name it, we'll be able to do it. And yet I had that connection with my dad, able to have that communication. It wasn't the same as understanding more of a system. And for me, I'm more technical. It makes a lot of sense to me. Oh, you do this to get this. Oh, when I speak with someone, I can very quickly figure out, this is the best way to talk to them, or this is a way that I can be able to figure out what's going on with them, why they're acting this way, and how I can help them. Especially since I work with the service industries of being able to teach, and I feel like they've called it edutainment, where you're educating when it's entertaining. Hopefully, me it's entertaining because of the information I'm able to learn when I'm studying and working with people. If it's entertaining, it makes it more fun. And so infotainment is another expression I've heard as well, where it's information and it's also entertaining. Learning to be able to connect and communicate with stories is part of that infotainment idea. And so when you have, at least for me anyway, a more specific way of communicating, it's a lot easier for me to understand how I can connect with people. If I don't have that, it makes it much more challenging. So stick around, be back right in a few moments after the break.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on OTR FM. So, those of you who've been listening this evening, you are hearing me talk about the different communication styles. We have the auditory, the visual, the kinesthetic. And just before the break, I was talking about how a good friend of mine She doesn't use that method to communicate. She instead just walks up to people and connects with them. And that's fantastic. I don't do it that way. What makes more sense to me is being able to have that connection, being able to have that kind of, how shall we say, that understanding of the step-by-step approach. And understanding the step-by-step approach, man, it makes a world of difference for me. That's how my brain works. Everyone has a different way of connecting and communicating. I found oftentimes that ladies, not all the time, but oftentimes ladies, they are better communicators and able to pick up on the subtle hints of the body language and such that guys just are clueless about. They have this almost an inborn ability where they're able to recognize, pick up on the tone of the conversation, if you will, and then be able to either fit right in or avoid certain topics. They're just really quite masterful at that. Guys, not so much. Yes, they can talk to other people. That's fine. Talking is one thing. Connecting is different. It is different. The men oftentimes have to find one thing to connect about. Oh, hey, football. It's your favorite team. Oh, that's too bad for you. Ha ha. Oh, you watched the game last night. Okay. Sports. Great. Great way of being able to have a lot of guys connect. For me, could care less. I'm not into sports. Not into sports? What's wrong with you? Doesn't learn about these different things. It just means that sports do not excite me the way they do with many guys. Not all guys, but many of them. When it comes Super Bowl time, do I watch it? No. I don't feel a need to watch it. Where so many other people, yeah, let's watch the Super Bowl. Party? Okay, the excuse to go to a party, is that what it is? For me, I don't have that same connection. Do I know much about football? No, I don't. I'd actually rather watch rugby. Do I understand rugby? No. There's still parts I do not understand about rugby. However, in my opinion, it's more fun to watch than football. The full contact football. Now, if you go over to England, you talk about football. That's very different than football over here. That's soccer over here. Communication, the words we're using. Okay? Words only make up a small percentage of our communication, believe it or not. Yes, we have written materials such as books. We have the media. More and more of it's going video, I'm sure you've noticed. And yet, what's a blog? They have video blogs now too, by the way. A blog is essentially somebody using words to communicate by saying, this is what I say, this is what I feel in a written format. Is that good? Yes, it is. Does it make sense to some people? Yes, it does. Is it for everyone? No, it's not for everyone because everyone has their own unique learning style. And what I've found over and over and over, this is almost like I'm speaking ancient Egyptian to some of these people, when they are having a connection or a communication problem with a girlfriend, with a boyfriend, with a spouse, whomever. When they're having those issues, I say, all right, how are you talking to them? Oh, well, I'm just talking to them. Right, okay. Let's back up then. When you're talking to them, what kind of words do they use? Do they say something like, oh, you just don't see where I'm coming from? You just don't get my perspective. Or I don't feel that you are working with me as we want to be able to walk through this step-by-step problem. Okay, that's another way. Guys, first one's visual, now kinesthetic. You don't listen to me. Sometimes I don't even think anyone can hear me speaking. Ooh, okay. That's auditory. If you're listening to some of these clues, you can recognize how to better connect with your partner, your child, your spouse, etc. I had a lady, she contacted me, I think about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And we've had on and off conversations. She's asked for advice and information about her boyfriend and the challenges they were having in their relationship. And she is a Latina, Hispanic lady. And it was interesting in being able to have the connection and communication with her. She'd come to some of my workshops in the past. Was that the problem she was having with her boyfriend was that he wasn't being emotional enough for her. Wait a second. So he wasn't doing what she wanted, that she felt she should be experiencing to be able to have a relationship with him. Oh, okay. honestly, that's actually very straightforward. Most guys would say, that's so confusing. I said, no, it's not. It's actually really easy to understand. Because we only see the world as we are. We don't see it as it is. We see from our perspective. We experience the world through our own senses. We hear what we want to hear. We don't hear necessarily what's being said. And so once I understood what she was talking about with her boyfriend and the problems that they were having as they were trying to communicate, he doesn't speak very much. As a matter of fact, he's about a 6'3", 6'4" guy. Nice guy, very quiet, soft-spoken. And when you first come up to him, you almost feel a bit of intimidation. Wow, nice-looking guy, big, looks like he's strong, and then he opens his mouth. You're like, whoa, okay. Doesn't really have a large amount of confidence. He's kind of a gentle giant, quiet guy, and yet doesn't also understand a lot of what he's able to do, and so there's a lack of that communication. So with her, she was having that challenge of he wasn't connecting and communicating with her the way that she felt that she needed to. So instead of trying to force him to communicate the way that she felt that he should be communicating, which was most of the issue there, that is a large part of the issue that I saw. What instead happened, what I advised her to do, was to go and learn what he needs to communicate and connect with her about. Once she understood that, she can now use his language to communicate with him. So now it's almost like, since she speaks Spanish, if I try to speak Mandarin Chinese to her, she'll probably have some challenges understanding me, unless she speaks any Mandarin Chinese, which if I'm correct, she does not. And yet, if I spoke Spanish with her, all of a sudden, it would make sense. Well, she's speaking Spanish to him, and his brain doesn't process the same way hers does, her learning language, if you will. This is not literal language, this is learning language. Remember, auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. I call those the primary learning languages, the primary learning modality that people have. The main way that they are able to process information. If he is mostly kinesthetic, which I believe he was, and she's trying to use visual or auditory with him, it's not going to work. It's like speaking Chinese to a Spanish-speaking individual. It's not going to get through. Once she spoke his language, though, all of a sudden it made a difference. And I was able to see on Facebook about 2 or 3 weeks ago, guess what? He proposed and she said yes. They were able to make that connection. Before, she was so frustrated. Why? Because she was expecting him to communicate the way that she wanted to be communicated to. That's a big issue when it comes to relationships. If we are working with someone, living with them, loving, being in the same relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, a business relationship, or even just a friendship, if we're in this relationship with them and we're expecting them to communicate the same way that we do, we're expecting them to be able to tell us what we need in the ideal format, that's challenging. Now, I'm not saying that you can't give hints and you can't give them direction, because sometimes if we notice that one technique doesn't work, well, then switch to something that does. When I was married a number of years back, my ex-wife and I, we would have these arguments, and she would say, well, you tell me you just want me to talk to you this way, and I don't think I should have to do that. And I say, hey, you're asking me what we can do to be able to communicate better and how we can be able to have a better relationship. And I notice that when you say these things to me, it's a trigger for me. And when you say it that way, it actually makes me respond this way, and it's not positive. So that's why I asked if you could ask me a question or phrase it in this way to help out to make our relationship better. Now, does that mean that I'm only expecting her to do that for me? No, I'm willing to do something for her as well. She felt, though, that I should be able to understand what she was saying, and that was good enough. One of the things I teach in my workshops is that you are responsible for your message, okay? When you say something, you are responsible for it being understood properly. And we also have a statement, I think it's an NLP statement of the meaning of your communication is the response you get. Okay, the meaning of whatever it was you were saying and communicating is how they respond or react to you. And if they are responding in a certain way, oh, that means I need to change the way that I'm communicating with them. The meaning of your communication is the response that you get. And if you don't get the response that you want, then you, yes, you need to be changing your communication so that way the other person understands what you're wanting. Keep modifying it until you are able to connect with them. They understand exactly what you're wanting, and you're now able to get your message across. Very, very, very easy to understand from my perspective, but much more challenging to be able to get across and be understood for most people. Only reason why it's easier for me is because I've been doing it for so long. Anything is easy when you know how to do it. When you don't know what's going on and why it's not working, it's really tough sometimes to figure out how to change it. An example, okay, married couple. Wife says, honey, take the garbage out. Husband's on the couch watching TV. Yep, I'll take it out. 5 minutes goes by. Honey, the garbage. Yeah, I heard you. Honey, what? I'm watching a game. Take the garbage out. I told you I'd take it out. I'll take it out, so just get off my back, okay? Does that sound like something you've heard before? I know I have. I know I experienced a very, very similar thing when I was married. Constantly asking, hey, do this, do this, do this. That is very, very typical. Why? It's because how our parents oftentimes learned from watching their parents. They communicated the exact same way. And so we are now doing it the same way too. Is there a better way? Is there a way that may be more effective? I say yes. Absolutely yes. And it doesn't revolve around threats. It doesn't revolve around being able to do passive-aggressive garbage or anything else that's going to be inappropriate, trying to force your will. Making sure you're asking questions is what does it. That's power. A superpower, in my opinion. And that's something that it's going to take us a little while to cover. This is not just going to be 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever. This is going to take 2 minutes. So a break coming up right now. Stick around just for the next 15 minutes. Done with the show. Breaks right here. Back in just.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on OMTimes Radio, OTR FM. Now, we were speaking right before the break. If you have a husband and wife or spouses, partners, etc., even parents, working with their teenagers, attempting to get them to do something. And I know that my mom, when I was younger, she would just ask me over and over and over, can you please do this chore? Can you please do this chore? Do the chore. Hey, it's time to do a chore. Do the chore right now. Do the chore. Hey, do the chore. That got old really fast. And I think that the term we used was nagging. Okay, quit. Of course, we never said this to my mom because we would have had some of the old-fashioned corporal punishment if that was the case. Yet we did among ourselves as siblings complain about mom nagging constantly. And as I've gotten older, I've watched it happen, this same perspective of asking a question over and over, and it's considered to be nagging. And I don't consider asking the question to be nagging. What I do consider to be, shall we say, a bit inappropriate and repetitive is when the question is asked over and over and over, and yet it's not asked in a specific way. Okay, there is a technique that I teach called a presupposition. We are presupposing what you can do. I think there's about 13 or 15 different types. We only teach about 4. However, asking a presupposition is asking a question where you are giving these options of this one or that one, this time or that time, yes or no, do you like it or not, okay? By having this presupposing that they will choose one of these 2 answers, it allows you to guide the conversation in a gentle way without being too pushy. At the same time, hopefully you're able to get the answers that you're wanting and the responses as well. If this wife, what I mentioned earlier with her hubby on the couch watching a sports program, for me, if I'm, for example, watching a movie, or especially if I'm on, say, playing my musical instrument, like a guitar or my Irish whistles or something, and my kids come to start talking to me right in the middle, they've learned, don't do that. Don't interrupt Dad. Why? It's irritating. It's horribly irritating. And I know from experience and with friends, etc., don't interrupt the guy in the game. Oh man, that's like coming between a mama bear and her cub. Don't you mess with the game. And so when the wife is wanting to get something done, or the partner, spouse, etc., there's a better way to handle it rather than saying, hey, honey, can you take the garbage out? Yep. What information was given there? Okay, she said that she wanted the garbage taken out. And he responds, yep, I'll do it. Did she ask for specifics? No. Did she put a time on it? No. She's not his mom. She may feel like it often at times, but she's not his mom. They're supposed to be equals. And if one who is an equal attempts to enforce or impose their will upon the other, whether it's the husband against the wife or the wife against the husband, it's going to cause some friction, some problems. A better way to do it, using those presuppositions that I mentioned. An example there would be this. The wife would say, hey, honey, I need the garbage taken out. Okay. Would you like to take it out now or after the game? I'll take it out after the game. Oh, okay, perfect. And what time does the game end? In about an hour or so. Okay, cool. So by 8 o'clock, you take the garbage out? Yeah, I'll take it out. Awesome. Thank you so much. What just happened? She got the information that she needed. He got the information on when and how what she wanted from her, so he has what he needs. If she's patient and she keeps track of it, okay, after the show or after the game is done, and he doesn't get up to take the garbage, she can ask a simple question. Hey, honey, the game's over, right? Yep, just going to go out here work on the car. Didn't you say that you'd take the garbage out after the game? Oh, yeah, I did. I'll take care of that right now. Okay. He made that commitment, said yes. She gave him that opportunity to choose which one. Because she worked with him, he is now reciprocating. Does that always happen? No, it doesn't always happen. With practice and consistency, though, it can be a beautiful, beautiful addition to your communication. Presupposition. Now, there's a couple of them. You can have presuppositions of time, Would you like to do this now or at this time? Do you want to do that now or do you want to do it after the game? Okay. You can do a presupposition of choice. Not dealing with time now, but now doing a choice of this task or this task. Hey, honey, would you like to clean out the gutters or would you like to take the garbage out? Which one would you like to do first? I'll take the garbage out. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, honey. All right. Especially if those are his chores he does around the house, okay? Which I used to do. Now I'm not in the same place, so I don't have to worry about the trees and the gutters being messed up the same way. Very nice, very nice. Other presuppositions. You have another one, a presupposition of a question of which one do you like, this one or that one. Say, for example, which do you like better? Do you like, for a student, for example, do you like being able to do your math homework or your history? Which is your favorite class? Which one do you like better? Well, I don't like either one of them. I know you don't like either one, but if you had a choice and you could choose which one would you like, which would you like better? Well, actually, history is more interesting than math. Okay, cool. Now you have something that you know more information. You can now follow that up. If you're dealing with a partner, a spouse, etc., you can say, hey, honey, what would you like to do to help out? Would you like to vacuum the front room or would you like to go ahead and clean the bathroom downstairs? Well, if they say, well, why do I have to do that? Well, you don't have to. I also don't have to make dinner. I also don't have to go shopping. However, I've made some of those choices, and I've done that. So I'm just asking for a little help around here because I did clean our bathroom today, and I also vacuumed the upstairs, and I did this and that, and I'd really appreciate if you could help me out. Now it's simply asking rather than begging, rather than demanding, it's asking while also showing that you've already made certain efforts yourself. And I've noticed this works great with all age groups, as long as it's done respectfully. Respect is huge. It is paramount. It is key. If you want the person to take you seriously, you want them to be able to treat you with respect, you need to show them respect first. I know this is not how you were trained when you were younger. You have to earn respect. Yeah, what if it's your spouse? Oh, yeah. Not some teenager, not some young punk. But now we're talking about our spouse. Would you have to respect them? Yep. If you want to get along, you want to be able to have a good relationship, respect is needed, and it goes both ways. And even if you're not feeling up to it, if you're having some frustrations, if you're having some challenges, problems in life, whatever, making sure to have respect and explaining yourself can go a long ways. If you're having a bad day, hey, honey, I'm really having a rough day right now. I'm really feeling stressed about this new stuff going on at work. And I appreciate you offering to talk to me about it. I really appreciate that right now. I just want a little bit of quiet time to myself, maybe watching TV for a little bit so I can wind down, and then I'll be happy to talk to you. Can you work with me on that? Are you all right with that? By asking that kind of a question, giving some information, and oftentimes ladies, they seem to do very well by talking about the problem. They love to be able to talk through it. Not even to get any information or feedback oftentimes. Oftentimes just so they can be able to work it out instead of in their head, the way guys do a lot of times. They like to be able to talk it out, and they come to their own conclusions. They want that man or their partner or whomever it is to be open and available and just empathetic. That's it. And that right there oftentimes gives them everything they need for that situation, a scenario. If they need more, they'll ask for it. Also, guys, please understand, if your significant other, wife, partner, etc., if they ask for your opinion, don't be upset or don't feel put out, offended, etc., if they don't take your advice. It's advice for a reason. Take it or leave it. If you offer it to them and they take it, great. If they don't, you offered it freely and it didn't cost anything either way. So don't take offense to that. Accept that they're making their choice. Having your information, having your perspective was good information, is good feedback. However, it wasn't necessarily the information they were looking for. Fine. Make sure that you don't take offense at that, though. Having that feedback that they need doesn't always come from someone else. They're not broken. They do not need to be fixed. Guys, oftentimes you say you have a problem? Okay, well, let's do this and you fix it. They don't want to be fixed. They want someone to listen and be empathetic with them rather than trying to fix them. I think, honestly, most problems in a relationship, if both of them are interested in making it work, you can solve a lot of the issues right there. Making sure that both parties understand this is the issue. This is how we're making the efforts to work through it. Let's communicate about it. Let's talk about it. Let's both sides be empathetic and open, and just give us our space sometimes. Space is also needed. When we're speaking about these relationships and how to build them, one thing I've heard more and more of lately from some of my friends that are getting into these relationships. I have one friend, she's almost 30, and then her boyfriend is in his early 50s. And they get along great. They really get along well. However, what she likes and what they've agreed to is that essentially at the house, he has the upstairs, she has the downstairs. Yes, they may be able to share the same bed. She also has a bed downstairs because if he's not there, well, she wants to be able to have a place for herself. But she also needs to have her own time alone, her own time that she can be herself and enjoy her own company. That's something we all need to have in our relationships. We can't be so stuck on the other person that we have to be with them all day long, every day. That really can wear on both parties. As I've mentioned in pretty much every other program that I've finished, we must become the change we want to see in the world. We need to be the examples. We can't expect somebody else to do it if we aren't willing to do it first. So step up to the plate and be that example. My friends, I will catch you next time.